step forward.
Hello. We're back with another episode of the General Podcast live show. I know it's been a little while since you guys have seen us, but holiday stuff, all the different what shows that we want in life has been happening to all of us. So we're off a little bit, but now we're back. We brought our friend Chuck Pineau back. He's like consistent guest all the time now. I love Chuck. We all love Chuck. Chuck, how you doing? Are you feeling as different as I am today?
I'm doing great. It was because this all came out of us hanging out yesterday, waiting for somebody else who, he was having internet problems, and we got into like a fucking hour-long discussion, and then we were like, we actually got to talk about this. Like, this is kind of cool. So we got really mad that we didn't record it, basically.
So this is our chance to record it.
It's
Right.
Record it live. Yeah.
All right. Otis, Ethan, how y'all feeling?
I'm good.
Doing well.
Yeah. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. Glad to be back here on the show. Glad to have Chuck on here with us to talk some. We got some fun stuff to talk about today. Yeah, we got a lot.
Yeah. Likewise, man. This is still one of the highlights of my week, especially this week. I've had some nonsense going on, but I'm glad to get back here with y'all. It's always good to see Chuck here too. So yeah.
I just love that for the racism show we needed a white guy. Like that's
try to balance it out. So
this show's all about perspective, so you kind of want to have a perspective from the white guy because we obviously do not have that.
Well, I mean, look, I'm definitely not pro racism. Like if we're doing a debate, I'm not pro, but I have to say, and I'm not proud of my people, but they're very good at it. So I guess like maybe that's where
you've mastered the art of
a little
racism.
too good.
Seriously.
I'm at least able to look around and go, "Ooh, I don't like what you're good at, but you know how to do that." And I mean, it's fucked up because even like, and I mean, I'm a white dude from rural Canada, and racism and nationalism are two things that tend to kind of come together an awful lot. And I'll be wearing like Canada shirts and stuff like that, and I have people like, motherfucker, you need to take that off. You're not in Canada. And I was like, fuck you, man. If you came to my country, I wouldn't give a shit what the fuck you wore.
Right.
You need to back the fuck up. Yeah. Like,
but
ridiculous.
You are in Texas, and that's where like
people
like amplified a little bit.
But people have so much pride in like Texas. I mean, Otis is a huge fan of King of the Hill. And King of the Hill, they accurately portray how nationalism, how important it is being just statesalism, being from that one state. So it's all places.
No, it's very true. But you got to fight back a little bit, right? Like,
of course.
Yeah.
My God. Definitely
Before we get into our topics, my last little point on that is it's hilarious how much pride people in the South have for the country. But then they have like a Confederate flag on the wall, which the whole point of that flag is we don't want to be a part of the country you love. So that whole hypocrisy, and it's a whole thing. But I've had the conversation. I'm in the South too. I've had the conversation before.
Are you questioning the education of Southern bigoted asshole racists?
No, because a lot of them had the same education I had. So I'm kind of I won't bring that into the equation. I just call it ignorance.
And here we go. And we're off.
Exactly.
First live show of 2022. Nice and smooth, easy.
Getting into our first little softball topic for the show. Obviously, R.I.P to Mr. Sidney Poitier. He was well renowned as a Black artist and actor all around. I have my own personal love for the guy. Obviously, from him being the model for one of my favorite DC hero in John Stewart Green Lantern. I kind of did a little mini essay, which is ironic because I made this essay last month, and that was in there where they talked about how they modeled the character after him, and at that point in time, so it was dope. Have you guys seen a lot of his stuff? Or?
Yes. Yeah. So I
go ahead, Chuck. Finish your thought, my bad.
Oh, good.
Well, wasn't he the first black man to win? Was it best actor Oscar or best supporting actor?
I think it's best actor.
Best actor.
I think so too. I hope so, but yeah.
For Guest Who's Coming to Dinner. Yeah, that was him.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you guys seen Guest Who's Coming to Dinner?
I have not. I've seen bits and parts from being with my grandparents, but I have not seen it in its totality.
Right on. Okay, so I haven't seen it in a while. I saw it in film school, and I'm old as Methuselah, but I saw it like 20 years ago, literally. But it's actually a really good movie, and I saw it I guess in 2000. And when I saw it, I was surprised at how relevant it still seemed. The idea of, because for those who don't know, the basic plot of it is that Sidney Poitier's character, who's I believe he's like either he is a doctor or he's finishing up a med school or something like that. He's a really well-renowned, well-to-do brother, and he's marrying a white woman, and she brings him home to the parents' house for him to meet their parents because they're engaged.
Oh God!
And I don't think the parents know that he's black. And the long story short, of course, it's all about race relations. But what's interesting about that is how Sidney Poitier's character, especially in I think it was the 60s when the movie came out, how he's portrayed as such a an upstanding dude, upstanding brother, as opposed to so many other portrayals of black men at the time.
The stereotypes and all that other stuff.
We've seen the dancing black guy. You know.
Right.
Bojangles. Tap dancer. Oh God.
Yeah, it's a good movie though. But it's one of those things. If you get a chance, I mean, if you can't, you've probably seen. There was the remake of essentially where they reversed it, where they had Ashton Kutcher and was it Megan Good? I can't remember. But it was the idea of it was a white guy and it was going to a black family instead. That was more recent. It was just called Guess Who, I think. So I mean, that idea has been done before, but it's the idea. It seems still, and maybe we like to think in 2022, racism is a thing of the past, but obviously it's not. And just I know that there are still plenty of people, plenty of couples, interracial couples that deal with that kind of stuff. Just the idea of how it can be trying.
And you assume if they were able to remake it, then obviously it's something that's still relevant, right?
Yeah.
Even if it is on the other side, even if they did it on the other side, still.
Right. Chuck, I know you spoke on it yesterday. How R.I.P to Betty White too. Jesus is the one. That's a little joke. How she recently died. I think in Sydney died like 2 days before her or like a week before her.
No, he died a few days after.
He was after.
Yeah.
We had
she died at the end of the year. He died at the beginning.
Right. I had no idea that he died until we had the conversation with Chuck, and it's like that's kind of sad. Like this is a big figure in our community.
That was my point. Is like, obviously Betty White, you can't take away from her contribution to everything and whatnot, but the same goes with Sidney Poitier. He did so much work, and even recently, like he's been doing movies off and on in the last 20 years, and he's done some cool ones, more supporting roles and whatnot. Because I think for the most part, he died at 94. So I think he was just like, I can take some chill roles and let other people do the heavy lifting and whatnot, and just enjoy myself. And he got to pick probably some more funner roles. But the fact that it wasn't being mentioned, that I was like, why is no one fucking talking about this? This is huge.
Yeah.
I will say, after sleeping on it, I don't know why, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just America or it's in the world culture or whatever it is, old white women for some reason are just like a meme. Like whenever you have an old white lady doing anything, like you look at like Frank's Red Hots or like when Martha Stewart was doing that shit with Snoop Dogg, whenever you have an old white woman doing something, it's funny, I guess, in a way. I don't know, because I don't feel like it's the energy of them being better or being like highly coveted. It's just funny to see that that contrast with old white women and doing anything in modern day.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the Betty White. So part of her, I guess, the Betty White Renaissance was when she was in that Snickers commercial, and they had it where she was getting hit. She was playing football and she was getting tackled because they were saying that when you're hungry, you have to play like an old lady. But the idea that Betty White was really good at being able to laugh at herself and with herself, much more than lots of other people. And again, I think that's part of her longevity, essentially. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, found
ways to stay in the mainstream, like like you said, like that commercial in itself. Like she's had multiple Super Bowl commercials. She's been in random popcorn movies or across like the 2010s, and so like you see her more often.
Yeah.
But just because I don't know, I feel like just because Sidney Poitier isn't necessarily in the mainstream as much doesn't mean that he shouldn't be discussed.
No, I completely agree. I mean, he was obviously kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. He was very much like they were both great people that contributed to the arts in amazing ways. But Sidney Poitier's, it was like the groundbreaking that he did, or the walls he busted through. I mean, there's so many things that we can do now as Black creatives, and of course Chuck too, because of what Sidney did before us. So I'm extremely grateful for it. There was old I forget the context, but when Denzel won his Oscar, and he talked about how he wouldn't be up on that stage if it wasn't for Sidney, partly because Sidney inspired him. So when he was growing up, he saw Sidney Poitier in movies, and the fact that a Black man could be portrayed on camera, or in film or on TV as something other than a drug dealer or a pimp, made him realize that's what he wanted to do. It inspired him that much.
I think he does training that.
So.
Well, one, I believe, like, didn't Will Smith do something similar during Ali and whatnot? Like, we kind of see that every once in a while. Like, a Black man is I don't want to say given this opportunity, because he worked his fucking ass off for it, but he gets this award, which is deserved, and and then he gets to go, hey man, like, thank you, I'm here because of you, and and then now I think that they remembered him. Everyone else needs to too,
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the value in representation. We've talked about it on the channel, from different videos to video essays to other things. Like, without representation, there's no progression. Like, you got to be able to envision yourself seeing doing something, and then you can execute. You got to have that vision. So.
Right. Exactly.
Do you guys feel that he deserves, like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to cut you off, Chuck.
No.
He deserves like a biopic, like a big time, movie production of his life? Because I personally think he does. I think his story needs to be told.
I completely do.
You think Will Smith playing him? It'll probably be like Denzel or Will, or Will been on his shit with the biopics lately. Because I don't know if y'all seen King Richard, but Will did his fucking. It's not that's movie, but Will did his fucking thing. Will and biopics are fucking.
He needs a good movie, so I hope that is a good one for him. I'll check it out.
It's definitely a good one, but I think Will Smith is just too old to try to portray Sidney. I mean, to be Sidney Poitier, because Will Smith in his he's 50. I don't remember how old he is, 52, 53?
Something like that.
Yeah, but so many things that Sidney Poitier did, like we just had a commenter mention the movie To Serve with Love, obviously, which is a movie he did in the one of his earlier ones, black and white ones in the 50s. So it's like to try to get, when he was like 22 or 23, we would need somebody young enough to represent a 20 some odd year old Sidney Poitier.
Yeah, true. I can't think of anybody. Like, my immediate response would be like fucking Chadwick, because he's the only other like young black person I could have thought about that does really well in biopics.
Yeah,
like, this doesn't really does him justice. Maybe Michael B. I haven't seen a lot of recent. I know he put out like a recent like heartfelt, like, I won't say chick flick.
Probably cast Michael B.
But he's
decent though. I think again, like Real Station and other stuff he's been in has been great. I haven't seen a lot of his drama.
I don't see him as Sidney Poitier. He's great, but I don't see him as Sidney Poitier.
They'll cast him just because that's a big name.
Is a big name.
Well, what I think sucks, and it's funny. I think Chris Rock said it, and obviously I can't say it the way he did, because he's allowed to use words that I'm not. But he was talking about because how how Rock does it. But he was talking about black actors, and he was like, "Man, you got to be honest. Like, when they're looking for a white actor between the age of like 25 and 40, there's 1,000 fucking dudes to pick from."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Rock goes, "There's 10 black guys, like," and that's not the word he said, but obviously, there's 10 black guys, and that's the thing. Is like, yeah, okay, there's all these great names. It's time for some more fucking great names. Give it to somebody who hasn't had their shot, Give it to somebody who's got their chops, or maybe someone who's done like some Tony Award winning work, or someone who's like really shown himself and is ready to move on to that. I think when it comes to representation, it shouldn't just be the same fucking black guys getting the same amazing roles over and over again. We need to see more black guys. We need to see more black women. We need to see more people of color doing all this stuff, and it shouldn't just be the same people getting the same roles over and over.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. This may be a very controversial statement, and you may look at me a type of way for saying this, but I feel like part of that reason is due to the fact I don't think black people give independent artists or up and coming people a chance, really, more as much as white people tend to do. And you'll see it as, again, Ethan, your you're a entrepreneur yourself, you'll see it whenever somebody says they have like a black owned thing, or let's say I was to sell this book, people of the culture would instantly be like, hey, can I get it for a discount? Or can I like they'll look for a way to get that thing not the way you get it. But if they were to go buy like a Gucci bag or something like that, they wouldn't question the price of that thing because they see it, they value that thing differently than something that's black and upcoming. Versus I feel like you'll see like a lot of the big black artists that pop off are either due to one, somebody like a Jordan Poole or like a Ryan Coogler we talked about that gave people like Michael B or Lupita different roles and gave them a chance for to become bigger artists. But a lot of the other actors, they get those roles from like those white directors that want to give them that chance to break out. And I don't know. I don't see a lot of like independent or up and coming.
Are you saying that like that independent like black directors or creators aren't given the same opportunities to upcoming black actors or black talents?
No, I'm not saying they do. I'm saying they do. They're part of. I'm saying that the fans don't give them the chance.
Oh, the fans,
like
the audience will tune in. And that's not
Like if a Sidney Poitier movie were to come out and it didn't have a big name like a Will or Denzel or Michael B, let's keep it a buck, a lot of people aren't going to see that.
That's true, but I feel like that's true. That's fair. But at the same time, like I feel like they're at some points, like this is probably the best project for that to happen. Like we mentioned, obviously Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman did a whole bunch of biopics before he was in the MCU. Like he did 42 about Jackie Robinson. And I believe at the same time that Black Panther came out, he did Get On Up, which is about James Brown. So he was essentially a no name when he was doing that type of stuff. Jamie Foxx was a name when he made Ray, yes, of course, but he wasn't people did not regard him as an Oscar winner. People thought mostly knew him from doing
Jamie Foxx show
and his own Jamie Foxx show. These things were not pedigrees. They were, so I agree that it is harder, I think, in our own culture for whatever reason for us to give a chance to up and coming people of color. But at the same time, we have to try. We have to do it. There's no way around it. Michael B. Jordan's biggest break, it wasn't The Wire. It wasn't the movie he did, Chronicle. It probably was Fruitvale Station, and that was with Ryan Coogler, and that was a much smaller budget movie. So these things happen.
It's funny because I feel like in general we don't give a lot of independent people shots. Where we as a culture want to see shit that we've already seen. You know what I mean? Right. And it's a thing, and I see it a lot as an independent creator. So I'm not necessarily sure I agree with you on your independent thing. I think the difference is that a lot of Hollywood shit is who you know and the friends that you have. And so the thing is that, there's a lot of white people who hang out with a lot of white people. And so we see a lot of white people getting up there. And the same is obviously not happening in other circles, and that fucking blows. And it's funny, but on the other hand, I do hear from a lot of the black independent comic creators, they'll share similar memes of people screaming, like we need to see more black people in movies. Why have we not seen Miles Morales as Spider-Man yet? Like all that kind of stuff. And then someone's like, hey, here's my black independent comic, and they're like, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? I'm giving you what you're asking for.
Yeah. And I'm not telling you to love it. I'm just telling you to give it a chance. Like, see if you like it or not. Yeah. But it's like that, man, where like you'll be a hero in the community one second and a villain the next. And I love my people with a passion, but just some things like that I feel like hold us back when it comes to us. Because you look at something like a Black Wall Street, in which black people took a chance on independent black business and with each other. And that was one of the biggest things known to man before. Obviously, we know what happened to it. So we have examples of what happens when we come together and help each other out, but it just hasn't really happened since then. I don't know. You can say leadership or what it is, but I don't know.
And that's something we talked before about on here. Is I don't know why it is that we've seen in the black community, especially, how we're so much more lately. It seems like we're more. Each person is out for their own. And we're not trying to give back or help each other up. Rising tide, raising all ships. It's more or less like I want my ship to get higher than yours. Not every, again, this is not for everybody. I'm speaking generalizations, but it's a weird thing.
It's been ingrained in us. It's that crabs in the barrel mentality. Like you need to be doing better than everybody else. You have to do like you can't corroborate. You can't have everybody rise up collectively. You got to be doing better. You have to be putting somebody else down to come up yourself, and that's something that's been ingrained in us. And it needs to go away. I'm sorry, go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah. No. I agree with you. I feel like it's a North American cultural thing, and please, by all means, at any point, feel free to call me out and say, "Nah, you're wrong." But I believe that this is a North American cultural thing. But the difference is that like, if I were to see it that way, which I don't, I very much am a community guy, and I try to be a part of the community and bring people into it and all that kind of stuff as an independent creator. But you do see it a lot where people are climbing on top of other people. The difference is that, as just an average Joe, they're just trying to climb on top of everybody. But I believe, and feel free to call me off, in the black community, it's like, no, I don't have to climb on top of everybody. I just have to climb on top of the next black guy. I need to be above him. And that sucks.
Well, I see the logic behind that too, which sucks even more, is because it's like if we only have enough room for the one guy. We only have enough room for the affirmative action, quote unquote, for one black dude. So you got to be the best black dude at these 100 over here. Therefore, I can't just be the best black comic book writer. I had to be the best black comic book writer for a 100-mile radius in order to stand out at all. And that's why it is. It's like my competition isn't my white neighbor or my Asian brother. My competition is just my brother, literally the brothers behind me. That's a horrible mindset. So I think you hit the nail right in the head there, Chuck.
For me, so I mean, there's not I'm just a white dude, so there's not a lot I can do. But what I try to do, and what I think is important sometimes, is I almost don't want to mention color. You know what I mean? Like, and that's my, like, as a white guy, I don't want to mention. So like, something I'm doing, and I'm not even going to tell you where to find my show, because this is not an advertisement for my show. But for my show,
we're going to.
Well, I appreciate that, but I want you to know that I'm not doing it for the show. But so for the month of February, I have one show a week, and every single one of my guests are black. I wanted to have a Black History Month without announcing I'm having a Black History Month, because I don't want it to be about, ooh, look, Chuck's woke. Fuck that shit. No, that's not what it's about. I wanted to make sure, and there's some really good fucking people out there who deserve to be shown off.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure of that, but I didn't want to make it about that. I just wanted people to maybe at some point look and go, oh shit. Huh. Everyone he had on in February was black. That's funny. I didn't even put that together. Good. That's how I want it to be.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. But that's just my fight.
No, that makes perfect. I'm glad you're doing that, but I think the idea too is what happens is people in your audience will just recognize that whoever you have on your show is just a good artist or good writer, whatever they are, a good creator, as opposed to a good black such and such, or good for a black. Yeah, so it's kind of like that's the idea too.
And what's the worry on the other hand? If you say, "Hey, I'm doing Black History Month," do you have people go, "Oh, cool. Well, I'm not interested." Like I don't.
You will.
Yeah, and you know what? These people deserve. I mean, fuck, everybody deserves the best audience I could possibly give them. So, I'm not gonna mention any of that shit. I just have some fucking amazing creators as always, and I do. Absolutely amazing people showing up. You guys it's going to be a great month, and I'm actually really excited to sit down with these people. And I'm excited one thing I do when I've spoken to people of color and to women, women say this a lot too. I'll say, what's the worst question you get? And they'll go, all the time people want to ask me, how is it as an artist of color? How is it as an artist who's a woman? And they're like, man, I have to deal with that every day. I'm fucking tired of it. The beginning of me feeling like a normal person and not being treated any differently is when you stop fucking asking me about it. I'm like,
or see through that lens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of it, I feel as though being a unit and unified, obviously you go a lot further than anything else, which is again part of the reason why I try to collect my two homies here for this podcast. I think an issue with that, though, that stops black people from being unified is an ego thing, which is kind of sad to say, because you'll see you'll see ego work in certain occasions, mostly sports, where you'll have like again like when it comes to the best players, when it comes to basketball, you know, let's talk about this in overabundance. When you see about it like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, the number one thing you hear about them is like their solo acts or like their ego. They do this because they have to be the ones to do it and da da da. When it's a team sport and you won't win without those teams. So it's hard, even in something like this where I'm in a group with two other creators, I have to check my ego at the door and be like, if they offer critique on something, I have to be like, okay, let me not get defensive about it. Let me hear what they're saying. Try to retool what I'm doing and not take that to heart. Because again, I brought them on for a reason because you always want to keep people around to do what you can't do.
Exactly.
But again, I think that's the issue. We always want to do things solo and alone, which is great. Improve yourself as an individual, but you can still come together with other people to make great things a lot easier.
Absolutely. That's an amazing point there because that's, I mean, I won't belabor this too much because we're obviously running out of time, but I love, like you just said there, as far as thinking the podcast. I do see what we do with Then and Now, even with Chuck on, is more of a kind of a super ego and id. The three of us have very different personalities. We work in very different, in tandem with each other, very different ways. There's different skill sets that Otis brings I don't have. Same as Charlie, same as me. There's different things we can do really well. It's the same thing that I see all the time when I make comic books. I'm sure Chuck knows this. I'm pretty sure Chuck and I can't draw worth of shit. But when we make comic books, we love working with teams of artists that can do all so many different aspects. It's when we come together that the real, the best thing shines through. The idea of an ego really does get in the way. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to kind of move towards our second topic of the show, so we don't run out of time. We had this discussion yesterday, going through X-Men and the parallels of racism. It's kind of apparent that everybody knows if you're any kind of a fan of comics or the X-Men in general, you don't have to dig too deep to find the parallels between the two. And I think Stan Lee and I forgot who the other co-creator of the series was. They made it apparent that they were trying to make that Jack Kirby. That's what it was. They're trying to make that an apparent thing. Yesterday we kind of spoke on. I think it started with like us discussing Batman and him as a hero or just vigilantes in general. Their existence makes the villains of that universe have to get bigger and better guns to take them on. And I think my point was with the X-Men, how their pure existence makes their universe progressively worse, in my opinion, and what I saw. If you guys have a point, stop me here because I'm trying to recall, like, catch everybody else up on what we were talking about because we talked about it for like 2 hours straight. But my point being that their existence, you see at different points in the universe, whether it is Scarlet Witch and her being a multiversal threat and fucking shit up, whether it be Apocalypse being the first mutant and him being a conqueror throughout all of time, or Dr. Sinister and his crazy experiments. Like, the longer mutants are around, the more threatened the world are. Part of that too is that they're so fucking strong. Like, they're reality warpers and can change the properties of metals and shit like that and teleport across the world. And they increasingly get stronger, which makes the world increasingly get in more danger.
Right.
So I think the question was, if you could take away and make them not mutants anymore, would you do that? I think you guys make the parallel was like asking black people to take away everything about you being black, and now we can make you white because you can conform now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the idea, the bigger overall question where this came up too was, not to backtrack at all, but just the idea. I think we were making the comparison. Has Batman made any changes in Gotham, or is Batman just doing more harm than good? And it's kind of like same thing with the mutants in the world of X-Men. And ultimately, we said that essentially, it seems like the X-Men are making more. The X-Men themselves are helping mutant kind to progress. And the idea of mutants, no matter how you slice it, you do not choose whether or not you're a mutant. You are born that way. And so to be persecuted by Sentinels or whoever else because of that is an unfairness. In Batman's case, despite what his life may have been, he did ultimately choose to be Batman. And everyone in the Batcave chose to be in the Batcave. So because of that, I feel like if you had the ability to remove a mutant's mutations and kind of make them a quote-unquote normal person, just like you could possibly change all the things about a culture and the tone of a person's skin, could you remove that? Would you do that? It's a very big question because there's so much that you identify with about that. Like, I mean, there's so much about myself. I'm not even the hardest guy out here. I'm not the biggest thug on earth. I'm just a little nerd, but I still, there's so much about my past, my life, that if all that was removed and changed, I wouldn't be me. Right. So I don't know if I could.
So here's the funny thing, because we talked for a long time, and it's almost like I can't remember everything we talked about. But something I had been considering as I kind of went back over the topic, and I think we all kind of overnight had some fun with it, well, or at least considered it. Right, like racism, which what a terrible quote to come up later on for me. Racism, Chuck
Having
Pineau.
fun.
Fuck!
right.
But
Having fun with racism in general, like that's it.
Oh fuck! But I think it's funny with a title like that, where we're all like it's the worst kept secret in the world, that it very much is. It was kind of a way to show off the civil rights movement and that kind of stuff. So then, how do you look at things like, and this is usually like white creators who are doing this, when the mutants end up taking over an island like Genosha, or now like Krakoa, and they're all gonna stay on this one island. I'm like, motherfuckers, that's called segregation, right? And that's not great. Hasn't done real well for people. You sure you want to go there, white guy? You sure? And no one's talking about that. And I'm like, do we not? Am I seeing that? Like, does anyone else see this shit?
No, it's definitely a thing that I saw. And it's like, so we're literally like, since it's a well-known parallel between the mutant plight and racism. We everybody's known that for a while, and to say that their best date is when they decide to leave where they are from and then go to this new place, like, is that a victory? Like, is that saying that you won? Did you solve it, or you just saying like, all right, we'll do what we always did. We go to our own place and have our own happiness.
Yeah.
Crazy parallel. Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, do you guys think that as a book that does, as a series that does kind of mimic the civil rights fight, the worst thing that we've been doing for it is keeping it with, and let's not even discuss artists at this point, but keeping it with mostly white writers? Why the fuck does that series not have more? I mean, obviously, Black Panther, you want to have some black writers, but like, why are we not having more people of color and more minorities writing the X-Men when that really is the story of the minority?
Not to mention,
what
like,
the fuck?
I'm sorry, not to pull away from your point, but like, if you think about the original X-Men and then knowing those parallels, is there a single black person in there?
No, there's not. Not on the team. Not for a while.
Not until Storm. That's what in the 70s when she comes about.
Or at the minimum, it's like still late 60s, which again, that's over a decade later.
Right.
Yeah. To hit Otis's point really quickly, I think that was a purposeful thing, because I think it was one of those things where they were trying to like trick you into agreeing without agreeing, where they don't have any black people inside of it. Because if you don't see any black people, you won't have that resonate to racism. It's like, oh, they're being treated wrong because they're different. That's not right. Or hey, you know what that else sounds like?
Right.
He's like, wait, you tricked me. You tricked me. That doesn't
make it more palatable. Which is that's fair.
Absolutely right.
It definitely worked though. It definitely worked. What's interesting, I've heard this before too in the past. How I know Dwayne McDuffie campaigned. He passed away recently, but he was a famed comic book writer, and he passed away a couple of years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. But he campaigned trying to be a writer on X-Men back in the day too, because of that very idea. I'm not sure why he wasn't able to do it, but one thing he had a problem with most was talking about Magneto. How Magneto was always compared to if Professor Xavier was Martin Luther King Jr. and Magneto was meant to be Malcolm X, and he's like, this is a pretty bad portrayal of Malcolm X. The idea of a person, essentially a fanatic, going around as an international terrorist. Malcolm X wasn't a terrorist. He was not.
Right. Which is in a way that's insulting, like a terrorist screaming about brotherhood, like.
Yeah,
like you think about things like, that's something else. That's a bit off
the mark. So but overall the analogy is still apt. I mean, the metaphor is still there, but it's just I think there are a couple things that could be adjusted. So.
How do you think that? And I'm giving you three carte blanche to reboot the X-Men. How does the X-Men look when created by minorities? What do you think are the big differences in a lot of those characters?
Good question.
Go ahead, Otis. You had a point.
Yeah, I mean, one of the primary differences wouldn't have just been necessarily in the characters, but in the portrayal of the world around them towards those characters. You get a little bit more of a personal feel to like how exactly they are discriminated against. You'll see more of that like on screen than just saying, "Oh, it's a mutant. Throw a bottle of." You'll see some of the microaggressions, some of the sneak remarks that people say under their breath. You'll see a lot more of that. I feel personally, if it was from a personal color.
Right. I think I did the same thing in regards of I keep a lot of the same aspects like with the Krakoa thing you guys spoke on that. I like that in a sense because I think it parallels Black Wall Street a lot in we're in Oklahoma. I can't
Tulsa,
Oklahoma. In the fact that when they're in Krakoa together, they thrive and have this beautiful society where there's like it's like a shining city, and then they come and bomb the fuck out of it at some point. So I like that parallel. I think the white writers, they do pretty well for the fact that they're not with their look is outside looking in. So they've done well in that aspect. But one thing I would keep in, also agreeing with Otis, is I would try to keep it modernized and focus more on microaggressions. Although we have in like modern day, we have like it stands, especially in the South, where you'll have those loud racists, but it's very far and few between. It's more like looks and slight comments and systemic stuff. Where I think I want to focus more on that and maybe behind the scenes have like the signals being developed for the extreme shit behind the scenes, but not have it in your face where it's like, again, like Otis said, throwing rocks at you and making it as blatant as they did like in the early 90s animated series and kind of going, maybe they'll focus on with the reboot, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they'll get into that some. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably what I would do too. For the most part, it'd be systemic, but also I would deal with, as they did the original iteration, focusing on teens, people who are going through, because that's when, obviously, in the comic books, when mutants are going through puberty or whatnot, that's when the powers usually manifest. But the idea too of like you feel really, really out of sync, and you feel like completely alone and isolated when you're going through your teenage years in high school. High school is insanely rough these days. I'm not even there, but I can just I can tell watching fucking Euphoria on binge.
Oh my god,
13 Reasons Why.
Or 13 Reasons Why.
I never watched that.
It's hard. I might feel for teens. So if you can actually show that too, like how not just being a teenager, but also feeling even more different and weird and kind of chastised for being a mutant, really get into that and kind of show how maybe even get a little dark with it possibly, where some mutants may even feel like they want to take their own lives, or some of them are really falling into drugs or other things, and to show how there is a need at the core of it. The X-Men are founded because these mutants need a home, a safe place to go, and that's what Xavier offers them. The idea of them being a group of people that go out there to fight against or fight for mutant kind, that comes later on, I think. But ultimately, it's the heart of them needing a place to go, a safe place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's a really good allegory for even like the trans community,
right?
Where you're born a certain way, but that as you grow up, that there's something different about you, and you don't know what it is, and then at a certain point, you're like, no, and there's that kind of transformation, and so there's definitely, I'm sure, obviously, it was probably not originally intended that way, but it could even be looked at that way. So I think the more they were to open that community, and I love your answers, by the way, guys. The more you could open that community up, or those titles up to minorities and people who have actually dealt with this shit, the more interesting that series could really get. I mean, why the fuck are we dealing with the Starjammers, and why are we like in the cosmos and whatnot when Earth is still pretty fucked up, guys? Like, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
My last little thing that I would probably throw in, I just not thought about, is to have like an identity crisis thing, like you talked about. Because I know me personally, and recently when I went through high school, me being in, again, you know what a PWI now is, Chuck, but me being in a PWI in high school growing up, I'm in a predominantly white area on the better side of town with my grandparents' military. He's like, to get the best education possible, he sent me over there. Or now I have this slight identity crisis because I'm a black kid in this predominantly white environment. And the people within my culture don't deem me worthy to be within it because I'm not I'm not black enough, quote unquote. I don't do all these stereotypical black things. And then on the whiter side, because I am black, and you can obviously see that, and I do still have part of my culture within me, I'm too black for a lot of the white kids that were there.
Right.
So I love to see a mutant. Probably one of the X-Men, and one of the reasons the kids go to the Xavier Institute is to kind of have them to where they're not fully proud of their mutant selves yet, which in that point in time kind of pushes them away from other mutants that may be in the school, which is a far few between. But obviously they're mutants, so they're not in tune with the regular people they have there. So I'd love to kind of see that dynamic in the character.
I feel like a little bit of that is portrayed in the X-Men, just for like all the characters that don't display their mutant ability, like the people that you can't physically see. Oh, that's a mutant. Like not we're talking about like Beast or Colossus. Right.
Like a majority of the X-Men, you can't tell they are
right. Exactly. I think they play around with that a little bit there, and then when they finally introduced the cure and how everyone reacted to that essentially.
Right.
Yeah. I mean I think that's I know we got to move on, but just the idea that is
20 minutes.
But picking it back off what Chuck said, that's a really good point. People that are in the trans community or the people that are in the LGBTQ, it's the idea that you feel that in your heart of hearts what you are on the outside doesn't match what you are on the inside, and you're kind of like almost you feel like you're living a double life, or like you are having to deny part of yourself. It would be interesting to explore a character or characters in the X-Men or just in the mutant world that was a big part. That's kind of a linchpin of their character, that they feel they're going out of their way not to show the world who they really are. And then when they join up the X-Men, they're able to kind of embrace that much more. I'm sure that for all of us, there have been times when we felt ashamed of what we are, what we love, what we value the most, trying to impress somebody or fit in somewhere.
Right. That would have been a significantly better written plight for Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique than whatever the fuck we got in those movies.
Right. Well, originally in First Class, I like the idea that she was clearly going out of her way trying to blend in, hide. She didn't show herself until Chuck called her out, essentially, and it kind of fell off with that. But yeah.
The topic on pacifist doesn't fit in X-Men. Condens. Oh wait, there's a lot more here. Nezuka, aka Gentle, is a perfect example of the topic. You're on pacifist, so it doesn't fit with an X-Men and outsider to the Wakandans.
Oh, nice.
Is that a character? I'm not familiar with that character.
I don't know. I'm not familiar, but now I want to be. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we need to look them up. Yeah, we got.
Right. Yeah, I'm like, I want to start Wikipediaing them right now.
That's my.
Well, no, she says she's a Wakandan mutant, I guess.
But Gentle, the character Gentle, the codename Gentle.
I've never heard of her.
I've heard of Gentle. I just never knew where they came from. I don't know what they do.
That's a dope concept.
It's one of the I forgot. It's one of the later X-Men that came. It's fairly new.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good. I'm glad
that's a dope concept though. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
Like a Wakandan X-Men. I love to see a lot more. Because I haven't read as much as a big fan of the Black Panther I haven't read a lot of issues where they dive deep into the culture of Wakanda itself. I love to see like a ground level kind of thing showing that the culture of Wakanda a lot more, especially in the movies. I want to see a lot more how they operate.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too because from what I understand about the culture of Wakanda, I think they're not war hungry, but they do pride themselves on being strong warriors. So the idea that a pacifist is in that culture, is in that community of Wakanda. Also, they becomes an X-Men, someone who's doesn't want to be violent. Interesting idea.
Right. Last point of discussion we'll get into is we said this at the kind of the end of yesterday's discussion, Chuck. With Otis Smith, your segment real quick.
That's really good.
Damn, that's long. The X-Men movies. The original ones from the 2000s, the ones that inspired a lot of the modern day superhero movies we have today. Let's get to how good they are. Now, obviously, they are lovable, and there are a lot of like moments that are memorable. But outside of that first one, and anything that doesn't involve Wolverine being on screen, how good are those movies really? Because I think again, Logan, obviously, he carries that shit heavy. And Xavier, I'm gonna say Sir Patrick Harris. What's Xavier's name? Is that what it is?
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart. Yeah. Him and
it's like we're not talking about Neil Patrick Harris.
We had
I still have different in my mind. And almost like Ewan McGregor for fucking Magneto's character. Who the fuck plays
Ian
Magneto?
McKellen.
Ian
McKellen.
McKellen. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Sure,
People,
Ian McKellen.
you've watched the show enough, you know names are. I remember names when they don't need to be remembered, but in a discussion where I have to remember his name, I fucking can't.
No, we got you. We got you.
Outside of those three characters, how good is this movie really? Let's keep it a buck.
I mean, we all know those are bad. Like, I don't think anybody.
Well,
Chuck was the one that gave me the fight back.
Because Chuck was the one that brought this that kind of.
And I would keep. So here's the problem. When I watched it, I loved it.
Right.
We didn't have a lot of superhero movies.
No,
so
we did not.
Have I gone back and rewatched it? Nah. And
Don't.
am I a little worried? No, maybe a little bit. But in my mind, going to the theater in 2000 and watching that movie
Right.
blew my stupid fucking brain out.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that it holds up compared to what's going on now? What does?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like how many superhero movies from 20 years ago are going to hold up? Even like, and people talk about the original Toby Spider-Man and whatnot, but go back, they don't hold up as well.
I never liked that one, but yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
No, it's just like one of my favorite childhood movies is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movies. You know, where Ivan Ooze, and like seeing that a second time in the X-Men Apocalypse, I didn't like it as much. So I get what you're saying. Like it makes sense.
Like I know I feel your pain.
Right? Yeah.
Me and Otis have had this debate even before this podcast was a thing where I defended a movie. I defended Insidious really hard because I saw that movie when I was like 14, and I absolutely adored that movie as a horror movie. And I was like, no, Otis, you tripping, bro. This shit is fucking fire. You tripping, bro. Calm the fuck down. Like last semester, I went and watched that shit, and I'm sitting there, and I had the realization, like, oh, this shit's trash. Otis is gonna eat me alive, bro. This shit is trash. So I'm like, damn, he never gonna let me live this shit down. That shit is so bad.
I mean, just to comment on what
It's
the user wrote in here that they like the Toby fights, and that's fine. And we're not trying to bash anyone's opinion on any of these things. If you like the original X-Men movie,
Right.
that's fine. Like the original Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, that's cool. I know that Dev likes him. He has a soft spot for them. That's whatever floats your boat. More power to you. One thing I will definitely defend about the original X-Men movie, you got to understand that was originally going to be Doug Gray Scott in the role of Wolverine. And I think we can all agree that Hugh Jackman still brought it. We're grateful for that. And two, I'm glad that the movie itself did understand the plight of what it's like to feel like an outsider. That it focused mainly on Rogue, feeling like an outsider, and pretty much everyone else is kind of pushed to the side. But it does at least focus on that point, which is the heart of the X-Men. So despite all its shortcomings, and there are plenty of them, I do appreciate that about it.
And I will say there are iconic moments like the X-Men 2, that Nightcrawler opening in the White House.
That's one of the
best shit I've to this day. I don't think there are a lot of MCU scenes that are better than that scene.
It's
where he's fucking teleporting all over the place and fucking up the Secret Service agents and shit. I'm like, that was badass. Like that CG holds up to this day for me.
Yeah,
but
now I have to go watch it again.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, there are a lot of good scenes across those movies, but like those scenes don't equate into making it a good movie, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's fair.
Any of them, honestly. Besides, I mean, Logan is acceptable.
Acceptable. I love Logan.
It's a solid movie. It's a solid movie. I've seen it. The more I've seen it, the less I like it. But like, it's a pretty good movie. It's a pretty good movie.
I think that's my issue. I watch a movie and I go, fuck, I love that. People are like, yeah, but what about it? I'm like, no, I loved it. I loved it.
No, don't ruin it for me.
And I'll never watch it again.
It's a pandemic. I need anything I can get. Yeah, I feel you.
That second watch is the true testament of how good a movie is. If you can get that second watch and still have the same feelings about it, which is why I need to watch Logan again, because I remember that, like my first time seeing that, or like the Joker. Well, I went in the theater, saw that with my stepdad. That shit was amazing in theater the first time I saw it. Yeah. Now I saw it again the other day. I'm like, oh, this is still pretty good. It's not as amazing, but it's pretty good. It's pretty solid.
No, exactly. No, it's I think what it is for me too is sometimes the first time I watch a movie, I'm trying to like grasp all the things that are coming at me and make sure that if I've heard a whole bunch of impressions and everything before going to the movie, trying to like filter all those things out. So then the second time, I'm able to kind of watch it with unfiltered eyes and kind of able just to absorb it in whatever it might actually be. See the actual message at a clearer head.
So, another perfect example of that. I'm sorry. Is when Endgame, when I went to see that with me and Stan went to see that, And the first time me and Stan watched, it was like, bro, 10 out of 10. And you know how I feel.
Endgame was a 10 out of 10?
It was just the emotion that you get from watching that first time.
Right. I will say that, yeah. I was literally speechless.
You know good and well I don't think that's a 10 out of 10. Like,
right. Yeah,
I don't like that movie.
You're right.
You don't like that movie?
I still like it.
No. I love the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Right.
But like besides that, I really don't care for it.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll ever get another, like, when I saw the end of that movie and I left, I was literally speechless. Like, I didn't know what to think because it was in a culmination of like my 10 years, like half my life was climaxed in this one moment.
Yeah.
Do you think there'll ever be like a moment as there was for like that Infinity War and Endgame movie? Like, even with the next 10 years of the MCU, maybe with like the new kids that are growing up with this stuff, but I don't know, man. I don't know if there'll ever be like a thing like that.
I think you're wrong.
I don't think they could do it again.
I think you're wrong, and I think the reason why you're wrong is we just saw it in fucking the new Spider-Man.
Right.
When you saw when and you know, spoiler alert, motherfuckers, if you didn't watch the new Spider-Man, walk away.
Well,
but when Toby and Andrew show up, even though it was like almost the worst kept secret ever, when they showed up, dude, that was just like, that was so exciting. And seeing them together, seeing them to work together, all that kind of stuff, even though we knew how it was going to go down, and it was all very like, yeah, that was the obvious choice. Like that whole movie to me is kind of like, yeah, of course that's what you did.
It was fan service. It was fan service.
It was absolute, but you know what? Yeah, I loved it. And
you're a fan.
Yeah, can it happen again? It just fucking did. And yes, I totally believe it will happen again.
Yeah. I agree with Chuck, and I think it'll be different. It'll evolve. These things, these big moments. If there was back in the day, we thought about that with Lord of the Rings, like the way the Lord of the Rings, that trilogy, that massive trilogy ended, the huge war they had, and then seeing Frodo and Sam and all that kind of stuff. It's like, will there ever be another time where something could culminate like that? It's like, yeah, of course, it happened with the MCU in a different form. Would there be another time when something could culminate like the MCU did over 10 years? Yeah, it'll be in a different form. I know, for example, say in the world of manga and everything like that, the Berserk, how essentially it seems like the series is kind of wrapping up in a way. If they were to actually have that, like say there's an epic, huge series about Berserk, and you see Guts finally, able to face all his demons and do all that kind of stuff, it could culminate in a character's journey. It doesn't have to be a massive, huge battle army over 10 years. It could be a character that we are, as an audience, are into for a long time, seeing them finally come to the end of their journey. Those kind of things, or even One Piece. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of that, there are ways that we can definitely have a massive, have closure, epic closure for something we've been following for a long time.
That show is older than Charlie. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
A lot of the shit I like is older than me. I'm just keeping it a buck. I've realized that recently, and I'm just like, damn.
I'm just saying, like, it's older than you and it's still going. Just fucking end. Like, it's one boat and one treasure. One Piece.
We're talking. Sorry, I should have brought it up.
Well, now there's two boats. They're on their second boat. But yeah,
God.
Yeah, actually, we're talking about this anime and manga One Piece.
My last question for you guys is there, because I thought about this recently in a discussion I had with one of my roommates. Have you guys ever, outside of the MCU stuff, been in a movie where like things and events will occur and the entire theater will erupt in applause or sadness? And like when Spider-Man died in Infinity War, the whole theater was like damn near crying and shit like that. Or when they appeared in Endgame, the fucking theater erupted. Or like you said with Spider-Man No Way Home, when fucking Toby and Andrew popped on screen, it was fucking, it was on. It was up. People were fucking losing their shit. I've never seen that in any other movie that I've watched in my all my time of like going to the theater and seeing movies where
I can't say I've never seen it, because like certain movies do have that, like like watching like Rocky, like the theaters would go crazy when things happen in Rocky, like the first time that happened, or like even Creed. I went to see Creed 2 and everybody
Rocky Horror Picture.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. That's such a weird movie to me that I
it is a weird movie. It's not my thing, but yeah.
I saw when I was little. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
So would we include, like, if you're talking about MCU and stuff, how do you feel about new generation fans? You happy?
It's a long ass question.
What do you feel about it? Just being a concrete. Oh, okay. Okay, like I guess you're probably talking about like Marvel and whatnot. For me, like I'm a massive X-Men fan, but I don't fuck with I don't deal with the X-Men in comics at all anymore. I've kind of walked away from that, and that's because I feel like a new generation. They're speaking to a new generation, and it's not me. And I also feel like maybe superheroes shouldn't survive for 60, 70 fucking years. Like, so, my boy Wolverine is going through all these weird things over and over. And I'm like, I saw that. It was better here for me. So I'm not going to say you need to fucking end the X-Men. What I will say is I've ended the X-Men. I've moved on and I'm going to enjoy other things. Same with, even stuff like Star Wars and whatnot. I can just kind of walk away and go, okay, I think I'm done. But by all means, let them have it. And if they're able to still make money and those people still enjoy it, great, good for you. But it's not for me anymore. It's not my X-Men, and that's fine. I'm not going to bitch about it. I'm just going to walk.
Right.
But when we were talking about movies, you were talking about MCU. Your question, Charlie, was great. Would you count Logan? Because I know Logan's not an MCU movie, but I'll tell you, I have a great little story.
Tell the story. Tell the story, though.
So the end of that movie, obviously, spoiler alert again, Logan doesn't fucking make it, and I'm a massive Wolverine fan. So when they've got that cross and they turn it over, that gets me. And I'm like, nah, dude, don't cry. So I was watching it with my mother-in-law and my wife. And I turned to look at my mother-in-law, and she just got huge tears going down her face. And I was like, oh, shit, this is not easy. Okay, you know what? My wife is a strong woman. She's got this. She'll keep me strong. I look over, huge fat tears. And then I just started crying like a bitch. I was like, oh, fuck. And just massive fucking tears because everybody who's watching this is fucking crying. So maybe it wasn't a loud cheer,
right?
But I believe everybody who had any kind of connection to that character at the end of that movie was just like, that was, even if the movie sucked, even if there was, and there were portions of it where I was like, what? The ending was nailed. They fucking nailed that. And so for me, that moment, it did it. So I feel like it does have similarities to Endgame because, as you said, rewatching it, it's not as good as it was, but that 20 minutes is still that 20 minutes. Like I can still go watch Cat pick up Mjolnir, and I'm like,
that's what he took mine. I mean, the thing is, I saw it in the theater 4 times, and in the theater, all 4 times, people exploded when Cap, because the way they shoot it too, that you don't know that who's going to. The hammer pops up, Mjolnir pops up, and starts going back, and then Cap holds it in his hands. The audience loses their minds. You see people like stand. I saw a person. I saw it in DC one time. A person stood up in front of me and high-fived my brother next to me. A complete stranger, high-fived him. And I was like, yes, absolutely. So I love those kind of moments. One of the earliest moments I ever saw when I was a kid. It's a random tangent, but here it is. In Sister Act 1, there's a part where Whoopi Goldberg is down on her knees, and these 2 like henchmen are getting ready to shoot her, basically. And she does like a jab like this to the sides of her to hit them in the balls. And everyone in this, I don't know, kind of Christian-esque theater were like busted out laughing forever. I never seen my mom laugh that hard ever. So there are definitely moments like that in comedies where there'd be or a sad moment, tearful moment like Chuck was talking about. Big moments in the MCU. I think crowds will still have that. That's one thing. This is another whole podcast, another whole episode. But the loss of cinema, if we do not have that shared community atmosphere at the same time in a theater. Right. Some of these moments are going to go. You can see reaction videos to people watching Squid Game episode 6 where a sad moment happened in episode 6.
Fuck Cyclops.
Fuck Cyclops.
Also, a Facebook user, in wherever you're watching this from, at the top of that link, there's a thing that you can go to it gives them approval to use your name, and your name can appear on the screen if you want to do that. You don't have to do it.
I wonder if it's the same.
You can stay anonymous if you want.
I think it's Zell. I think it's always Zell.
It's the same person.
Like, it's me. I'm like, bro, Zell, this picture.
It very possibly Zell. Very possibly Zell.
It's probably it was Zell last time. But before we go, we got to do the one last section, one last part, and then we'll be out of here. And we'll let Chuck Pineau.
Craig.
Craig, that's what it is.
It was Craig. Oh, Craig. Yeah.
I got a quick hidden question, real quick, before we get into all this stuff.
Okay.
Has a movie ever made y'all cry? I know Chuck, we already got your answer, but I've only ever cried in Marley and Me, and no other movie, no matter how sad or like well it's done, has drawn a literal tear from my eye besides Marley and Me. Has they ever gotten y'all to?
To cry. I don't know if I've ever like full out cried in a movie. I've gotten teary out of a bunch of stuff. Like
But a tear shed your cheek. In game? Oh, got you.
No.
Dad, I Love You 3000? That hit. That definitely hit.
Oh, it did.
Okay.
No.
Where?
Yeah, that's fine. No, what made me cry. It's probably the time that I saw it, but still this day, what I remember is actually watching when I was a young buck, The Never-Ending Story. Have y'all seen that?
I got both.
I know Chuck has. I know for a fact Chuck has. I'm not sure if Otis has seen it. But
I've seen it. Never enjoyed it, but I've seen it.
Well, there's. Let me go and cut Otis off the camera. but the part
Ain't
where
nobody coming to see you, Otis.
perfect. That's the best time imaginable. I'm so glad you put that in there just for that. God damn. Thank you.
So we have
Thank
like
you so
these.
much. But the part where Artax dies and the characters, like you see him, it's and they draw it out. It's a long, slow, painful death. That horse is suffering. I have no idea how they even filmed it. And that character, what's his name? Like, it's horrible. But then he has to like go off and fight a werewolf. It's this crazy stuff. So that was a pup. I remember that made me cry the first time I was a kid watching it.
You talk about the horse sinking to the quicksand?
The sinking sand of sadness.
Yeah.
And then he has to go and talk to a turtle that keeps sneezing in his face. It's like this kid has it rough.
Yeah, that kid, boy, that shit. Well, I felt bad for him. But yeah, I'll get into. You wanted to roll your segment, right?
Yeah, go ahead and run that.
All right.
All right, welcome to Either Or. This is the segment of the show where I ask my co-host and our beautiful, lovely guest a hypothetical question, and they answer to the best of their knowledge and have to show their work as to why they think it is. So I'm gonna keep this question fairly simple to start the year off. Either we should have superheroes, vigilantes out there doing their thing outside the law, outside the confines of the law, or we should not. What do you guys think?
Ooh, that's tough.
Thinking about all the things we talked about with Batman and some actual how he's invited challenge. Think about the X-Men, how they have progressed things forward. Sometimes think about this too, how oftentimes what's right and what's legal are mutually exclusive. So all these things factor in. What do y'all think?
So, okay. So we have real world examples of vigilantes in my. I see like the Black Panther Party and movement as like a vigilante type thing where they're going outside of the confines of the law to protect Black people. And it was great for the time. Like my grandma talked about growing up, she would see them protect like picnics or different things like that where Black people would gather, and you just have the Black Panthers kind of around it, making sure shit didn't pop off. And it was great for the time, but then they kind of spoiled into like maybe like modern day gangs and shit like that, to where you have people that are operating outside of it corrupted. So you have people with all that power, it eventually you end up getting corrupted to some extent. And that's my one scary thing is like it's cool when it works for you and it works for the person it's supposed to work for. But when it flips and it's not used for what you would want it for, not used to benefit you, because if we can get like a superhero to protect all against from all racism, there's gonna be another superhero on the racism side, like a fucking King Nazi. The fucking like he's gonna be that like the Batman dynamic we talked about. There's gonna be somebody to oppose what you have as a vigilante, and they gotta raise that power. Worst case scenario, I like my car too. When it comes to the MCU shit, if we get to that level of like a superhero, I don't want to have to buy a brand new car and then the next day it gets used as a fucking hammer the next day. I'd rather not. I'd rather that not happen.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. Oh, go sorry, Chuck.
No, Otis, you go first.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Charlie. I think it is a horrible idea to do that, because then you make it more accessible, because everybody can be a vigilante for their own cause. Mm-hmm. And if none of them are checked by anything, there will be utter chaos, like utter complete chaos. Anybody can just go out and say like, oh yeah, I'm a hero today, you're my villain, bang bang, you know. Yeah.
Bro, if you were the snap was real and you just like had a whole child and you get dusted for 5 years and now she's like grown, or she's like 5 or some shit like that, you're just like,
when
damn.
You come back. Yeah, when you come back, yeah.
Well, 5 years of your child's life is gone, and you didn't do shit to go to work.
You're right.
That thing, exactly. I'm good. For that, I think a lot of people like had to die. Like imagine an infant is in their mom's arms, like, and snap, the mom is gone. That infant lands on the floor.
Like a pilot,
and like,
well, that's always them as a pilot. Pilots
pilot
were driving cars. They are
right.
or even when the plane. Let's say the plane came back after the snap, the pilot and the plane itself came back. There's a bunch of people in midair that like, oops, we're done. So
the plane did get snapped. I think the people themselves.
No, not the plane. I'm saying that if that plane did land, if the plane landed, all the people that were on that plane that got snapped, when they come back in midair, they're not going to be happy. Right. So.
Wow.
I'll have to get into that at some point.
The casualty count for the snap and the snapback has to be crazy. It has to be. I feel like if a billion people probably didn't make it through that,
and that's on different planets too. That's not even just Earth. That's like
different planets. Or if you were on the road in your car, and then of course you got snapped out and you get blipped back, then you're on the highway, you're gonna get hit most likely. It's not gonna. I mean, and then that car hit you, they're gonna cause an accident too. It's a lot of things did not go well for a while after that.
I hope they get into like one of the a new depth. Like they getting more with each show, kind of showing you more and more of what happened with the snap. I want to see that dark, like maybe like the Daredevil show, maybe I don't know when that comes back or something like that. Just do that dark, gritty shit about what happened.
Yeah, might show something. But anyways, Chuck, we've kept you waiting long enough. What you got? What's your answer?
This society is all fucked up, and it could use as much help as it can get. So I think the right now, hey, look at you looking at me, man. I see you give me some fucking side eye over there, motherfucker. I'm all about vigilante right now. I think we need every once in a while somebody to step up and go, no, this is the right thing to do. And it's not about one person being above the law. Mm-hmm. It's about every once in a while we need to show the people in charge. No. You're not in charge, motherfucker. We let you be in charge. Yeah. You work for us. And if you're not going to do it, this motherfucker is going to do it, or that motherfucker is going to do it. Somebody is going to do it right if you're not gonna. And so, yeah, I kind of am on the side of vigilante. Like, I mean, hell, let's look at the cops last year. We needed more people out there fucking, right? Yeah. I'm gonna, yes, see? Yeah. Chucky's getting all. But yeah, we need somebody to show, hey, man, no. There's a better way to do this shit. And if you're not going to do it, we'll take care of ourselves. Yeah. And so, I mean, what happened in Portland? There was entire communities that were like, nah, we're separate. Now, that didn't necessarily last, but they showed there's some shit going on. And if you really want to take care of your community, sometimes you're going to have to step outside of the law. And I'm fully down for that. I like to tell people I'm a neutral good kind of guy. I used to be chaotic, but nah, man. Neutral means that when the law is working, I'm for it. When it's not, all right, well, there needs to be a balance, and I guess I'll be the chaos. Yeah. So you gotta try to find that balance. And right now, the balance is off, and somebody's got to fucking deal with that. I may not be the guy, but I'll support him.
Right on. And I wasn't saying specifically from like vigilantes as far as picking up crowbars and going around mass doing something crazy. But just like you mentioned earlier, Dev, the idea of the Black Panther Party or SNCC or whatever you Harriet Tubman, people that when a wrong is going down, they say there is right and there is righteous, and these things are just plain old fashioned wrong. I'm going to do what I can to help the greater good, the actual a better cause. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't always have to be by crazy violent means. It always have to be with actual physical. It can be a person. I see lots of heroes as people that I grew up reading the books of. So that's I think of superheroes can be different things to different people.
And that's a really good point, a really good fucking point. Sometimes being a vigilante is just taking a different seat on the bus.
There you go.
So yeah, no, you're dead on, man. That was a really good point.
Because I was literally thinking back to this of like a Batman, or like somebody selling a dime bag.
Yeah, that's an obvious
one. And then your whole like you shatters your femur because you're selling a dime bag. Swear to me.
Or Kick-Ass. It feels like if you were a real life
Deadpool, his body count, Hit Girl.
Even if Batman isn't killing people, he's like making you a vegetable. Like he's shattering femurs, dropping you off of buildings and shit. Like he's just Casey Jones, yeah. I mean,
Casey Jones is great. I like
See,
Casey
like,
Jones.
imagine if the guy that decides to become Casey Jones is like, a basket case. Like,
I mean, he kind of is.
I feel like that's just as likely I feel like that's more likely to happen than a person that is like morally just becoming a vigilante because they're already unstable.
Yeah, it's obviously Casey Jones it's more likely that he will become a loose cannon and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, I think there are other means. Hopefully, there are other ways to go about doing.
And if you're killing, you're gonna end up with a Kill Bill scenario where like you kill somebody, like their child comes back, or like their uncle comes back, or such and such, and the family comes back, and now that's more collateral damage.
Cough, gang violence. Like that's literally how gang violence works in general.
One of these things just doesn't belong here. Well, guys, we're getting towards the end of the show. This has been a great discussion, James. I said James. Oh my God, Chuck, thank you for coming on.
I'm gonna be the new James. Bye, James.
Oh God,
What do you mean by
that? Hey, it's still my shit. Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. We love having Chuck on here. We'll get you back on here again soon. Especially for the first episode of Loose Cannons that will get recorded soon. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll make it a point to start putting these live shows on the actual Spotify and on the YouTube channel just as an extra video.
We are everywhere. We're on Spotify, YouTube. Come and find
Apple
us.
Music now. I got to set up on Apple Music now too. So we're on everything. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Music. I think you can rate 5. You can rate stuff on Spotify now too.
You can rate stuff on Spotify?
They added it in. It's like a little star next to it for podcasts. So yeah, if you guys are tuning in and listening on only audio platforms,
here's Chuck's. If you want to find Chuck.
Oh yeah, if you want to find Chuck on anything, I'm pretty well. That's at least on Twitter. I don't know what his stuff is on everything, but Chuck, is there anything else you want to plug while you're on? Any projects you're working on?
You know what? I've got a bunch of stuff going on, but nothing that's actually hitting at the moment. So just come on, check me out. I'm easily found. All you have to do is type in the Chuck Pineau. There's not a lot of us out there, so you'll track me down. And yeah, man, I always have some cool stuff. I'm always working with really cool people because, like we said before, it's not about me, it's about the community, and I'm working with some really amazing people who are doing some really cool stuff. So yeah, I've got some great projects, but so do they, and I'd love for you to check out all of them. So,
and speaking of which, Chuck and I have been talking about trying to figure something out to do together, and I'm over there at Echelon G Novels. Chuck and I are both writers. We're friends. So yeah, Chuck's a really great guy. Please hit him up, check him out. He does amazing things, and check me out too at echelongnovels.com. If you like, can I disclose his Otis? Well, too late. Otis and I are working on some stuff together too. We'll be disclosing that more in the future as well.
I love it.
And of course, I got to do the shout out to the TBC podcast that comes on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. with Mike Hennessy and Old Head.
Go see my boys, man. Go check out my boys.
Tuesdays, Bay Chain After Dark. Got to make sure we shout that out. They got a special show planned for you guys this week, so be sure to tune in. And of course, catch us every Sunday at 5:30.
Eastern.
5:30 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, Eastern. Got to make sure I put that out there.
We're not one of those weirdos.
Yeah, Craig. Eastern. Always Eastern, Craig. Always Eastern.
the shout out to the West Coast where I am by myself and by lonesome. Where it's not snowing at least.
Central.
Yeah, right. It's not.
It's in the central.
Central.
Chuck chimes in up underneath.
Those beautiful little flyover states. What's up?
First off, fuck your click anyway. Yeah, guys, this has been another episode of the In Out Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next Sunday.
Fox, please never make another superhero movie. I am begging.